right, we live. We live on We live on YouTube. Moderation close. All right, we live. We live on both of them. We live on Instagram. I'm live on Instagram and YouTube. All praise is due to Allah. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah. Muhammad is his messenger and exalted Christ. And I further bear witness that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is the extension of the Son of Man. I would like to greet every brother and sister with the greeting words of peace, which we say in the Arabic language, Assalamu alaikum. Peace and blessings, family. This is your brother, Knowledge 5845 on the ground, known as Winford X, author determined to change, student of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan by the way of the eternal leader, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. We can never thank Allah enough for appearing in the person of Master Father Muhammad, to whom praise is due forever. I pray to Allah God that every brother and sister is alive and well on this Thursday morning. And I pray to Allah God that he continues to bless you and bless your families. Brothers and sisters, I am a little bit under the weather. My throat is scratchy. I woke up when it came down yesterday, throat kind of scratchy. The weather is changing and I can feel myself getting sick, but I have medicine that I'm taking, but I definitely still wanted to go live. So we could just dialogue, man. You know how we do it. We like to have some high end dialogues, or we like to have some high end conversations to where we can reflect on the reality of God, and we can raise our senses and we can better our lives. And what is the ultimate goal? The ultimate goal is self-improvement and accountability. This is something that we all have room to excel in and be able to see things in our life. Yeah, I got some tea and all that. I'm drinking on some of that right now. Lemons. I got all kind of stuff. I got all kind of stuff that I'm taking. I'm on all kind of stuff, man. That I'm trying to take. So, but bean soup for sure. Bean soup for sure. But we talk about we always having deep discussions. We're always having deep dialogues, and we're always having high level conversations, deep discussions that we can have. And I want to be able to share, of course, by me being a student of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, even though we have our own individual lives and we've been through some things, and we've experienced different things in life, I always want to be able to compare as we have dialogues. There is no better comparison than to hear the wisdom in the words from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And I'm going to continue to say that. I would not change my words. I would not alter anything that does not allow me to give him the credit, to give the credit where the credit is due. Anything of influence that I may have to just help someone, or a word may be said, and we have to be careful and be mindful, because sometimes I've noticed that a lot of influencers, a lot of gurus on social media, a lot of motivational speakers, or a lot of this and a lot of that people follow, it's become a cliche to where people say, oh, we can't keep having conversations, or we can't keep dialoguing. It's more about getting things done. It's about the action. Absolutely, it's about the action, but we cannot throw away the process and the importance of dialogue. that is very, very important. And the reason why I'm saying that is because I came across something, and you know, I've heard people tell me all the time, well, brother, you can speak, you can talk about the teachings, you can do this, but people want to see, they don't want to just hear the teachings, but they want to be able to see it and be able to show them something to where they're able to benefit from it. Well, everything starts with a conversation. Everything starts from language. Everything starts from a dialogue. You know, everybody doesn't. Walaikum salam, Sister Faith Austin. Everybody, walaikum salam, Brother Jorge X. Everybody doesn't learn the same. Everybody doesn't receive intel and information the same. But we do know that what's important is it has to be relayed. So we have to be able to engage in certain things that's going to get our mindsets to thinking about what we engaging on, right? And for me personally, I don't see anything higher than being able to dialogue about our lives, bringing in the life-giving teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, guided and taught by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Now, I know that sometimes that can run people away, but that doesn't discourage me, and it shouldn't discourage you to understand that anytime that we are dialoguing, I want to be able to dialogue about some high-level conversations. I want to talk about igniting the electricity and the brain waves inside of the human being. How can we come out of our condition? And it starts with having a proper dialogue with one another. We're listening for something, right? We're listening for something. So what I would like to do is I want to be able to show you and share with you what the master teacher said about having dialogues and about having conversation, because we can get turned away by listening to influences on here, and it'd be sounding so good. We're tired of talking. It's about doing. It is about doing, but we should never get tired of talking. If you are a true man or woman of God, how else will you be able to relay the message and ignite the spirit in that person to get that person going? It has to be some deep dialogues, and we have to be able to share these dialogues, and we have to be able to bring in the right wisdom to do so. So as I was studying last night and this morning, I've been reading coming out of Closing the Gap by Brother Jabril Muhammad, and he's interviewing the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and just listening to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan words of wisdom, the way he's answering as Brother Jabril Muhammad is asking him some deep questions. I'm so amazed. I'm so moved by the answers that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is giving from his own personal life. This is not something that you just hear on an everyday basis. We are blessed to be able to recognize a human being that God is literally using as a vessel to represent himself. I don't think that we understand that to the magnitude as we should, but those who do understand it, all praise is due to Allah. For those who do understand it, I don't think there is a higher dialogue that we could have if it's not pertaining to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. That's my humble opinion. That's my humble opinion. And so me being a student of his, if I receive an electricity and I'm able to I'm able to ignite something in myself, being determined to change, then I want to be able to share that with you and show you how not only is the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan a messenger of God, but when you understand the depths of the function of God, we will see that the things that God has on his mind is directly coming through the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So what I'm saying is, if God is leading him, and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said that I'm always thinking of Allah moment to moment, and the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, if I was to leave God for a split millisecond, a nano of a second, he said, I will be a fool. I will be foolish. So in so many words, what is the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad telling us? What is the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan telling us? Don't be afraid. If they're lined up with Allah and they're working on one mind, it is safe to say that God is present in our midst through the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. You can take it or you can let it alone. But I want to be able to share with you certain things that Brother Jabril, which is the angel Jabril, we got to get back connected to the scriptures, and there's nothing wrong with that. We have to get back connected to the scriptures to be able to sustain a spiritual reality within ourselves and be able to see the different results. We can't get around that. So I'm letting you know now, when I go live, yes, I'm your brother. Yes, I've been through some street things. I grew up in the streets. I experienced the penitentiary. I've done all of these types of things. It's a lot of brothers and sisters that have experienced similar things as me. But what is more important is when I go live, I'm going to represent the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I'm going to let you know that now. So every time you see me go live, guess what's going to happen? No matter if I'm talking about determined change, coming from the streets, there is no way that I could talk about my life without saying the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. And the way that I'm able to say, there is no way that I could talk about rehabilitating myself. There is no way that I could talk about self-improvement without being God conscious, without knowing that I have to become God conscious. So the reality of becoming God conscious for me is the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I hope that makes a lot of sense. We have to understand how to recognize God. We have to understand how to hear when God is speaking to us. It takes a certain skill. It takes a certain heart. It takes a certain mindset to have to know how to recognize God. We always say, oh, I'm a God-fearing person. But do we know how to recognize God when God is speaking? God has a voice. God, he sleeps. God, he's happy. He gets angry at times. But if we're just looking at God as something that we can't snatch our minds to, or we can't gravitate towards, or we can't relate to it, how do we know how to look within ourselves and be able to clean things up in ourselves when we've experienced so much? So we have to be able to see God as a reality. And so that reality of that God is the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Now, I know some people are going to say, oh, brother, you didn't went overboard. Oh, man, you trying to say that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is Allah? Yeah. Yeah. I'm saying that Allah is in full control of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So am I saying he's the originator? No, I'm not. That's not what I'm saying. But for those who feel like that's what I'm saying, that's because we are still undeveloped in understanding the function of God, how God operates, how God is revealed through the human being. So we're so shaped in separating ourselves from the reality of God that we say we believe in God, but we don't even know that God is a part of us. We say God is a part of us, but we don't really believe that. We don't really, and if we do believe it, I'm not going to say we don't believe it. If we do believe it, we just don't understand it. So God is saying that I'm going to come down. In the scriptures, it says God was listening for the cry And he wanted to hear if the cry was in unison. God was listening and said, he didn't say, I'm going to send a prophet. God said, I'm done sending prophets. We've got to a time now to where God has manifested and made himself known. He didn't make himself known when he was sending prophets. That was a moonlight, meaning that was a lesser light. Not saying that it wasn't a good light, because moonlight is a good light. But now we're not in moonlight, we in sunlight now. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said that at a certain time, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad told him, son, take the moon off. Y'all see this moon and this star? Y'all see this star and crescent right here? Well, if you look, the red represents the sun. Sun, moon, and star. This is the nature of the universe. This is the order of the universe. So it's natural. So we talk about the sun is red. You see the crescent. That is the representation of the moon. And the star is justice, right? Freedom, justice, and equality is what we're looking at. But the moon also represents, the moon is representing a prophet, a lesser light, but yet it's a light. But the moonlight is a representation when the sun is not present. So in the scriptures, the Son of Man. See, all this is a connection. The Son of Man coming from the east. Another Son of Man being risen from the west. The sun is rising from the west. So if the sun is coming from the east, and now a sun coming from the east, then it talks about a sun rising in the west. We know that when we look at the sun and how the earth rotates, it is in unison to the nature of Allah God himself, meaning that there is a perfect order. There's an order there. So the sun, S-U-N, is always it's rising. It's rising, but the earth is spinning. So it seems like it's rising from the east, right? And it sets in the west. But when we talk about the Son of Man, S-U-N and S-O-N, that S-O-N, Son of Man, is God himself. We didn't learn this in Christianity. I'm not saying that I said we didn't learn this in Christianity. But the true teachings of Jesus Christ is something different than Christianity. It's not the same. But if we don't understand the reality of God, we'll never be able to change our condition as individuals and as a whole. So what I want to do is I want to show you how this morning the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is about to get in every last one of us. What I'm about to read to you, and I'm confident, it's not a doubt in my mind that what I'm about to read to you from the wisdom of God. Did you hear me? I said from the wisdom of God coming through that human being. The minister will never tell you, oh yeah, I'm God in person. But yet and still he'll let you know I'm God in person. Because if he tell you that he's God in person, it's going to run us away. A lot of us are still undeveloped to understand that we are literally looking at God. What is the difference? When the disciples asked Jesus, when will we ever see the Father? Oh, this is heavy. Oh, this is heavy. When the disciples asked Jesus, when will we ever see the Father? What was Jesus' response? He said, haven't I not been among you? This is Jesus talking. So a lot of us that are undeveloped, we took it for the misinterpretation. Also, you're saying that you God and the Son, and you Jesus, but you God too. And so the way Christianity, the slave-made doctrine, was taught to us, it wrapped us all up and it confused us. So we didn't know how to understand or how to look at Jesus, and we worship Jesus as God. But Jesus was saying that when you see me, you see the Father, because the intelligence, the wisdom, where am I? How am I able to feed? How am I able to teach you in parables? How am I able to ignite you? How am I able to electrify your being from a dead state? It takes only God to do that. Only God can bring us from a dead state, but it has to be an intelligence. It has to be a word. It has to be wisdom. It has to be a power and a force that's going to ignite inside of the human being and awaken him or her from the dead. But the reality is, it has to be done by what? A human being. Yes, we've had beautiful brothers and sisters that come before. Or that, can we say that they're God? We're all gods. But now it gets technical. Now we have to go deeper into detail. We have some beautiful brothers and sisters, ancestors, that did some good things, broke out of slavery, and we built towns and all these things. But when it comes to a spiritual cleansing, they didn't get it to us. They did good things, but they did not have the power to change the condition. They didn't have the quickening of a spirit, because the quickening of a spirit, it takes intelligence to quicken a spirit, but to quicken a spirit, that intelligence coming through the vessel, coming through the lead wire, coming through the mouth, a certain teaching is what's going to quicken the spirit. It's going to change you as a whole new creature. That's what the scripture says. It says that you will be turned into a new creature. How can we be turned into a new creature? You're going to be turned through the quickening of a word, of the spirit inside of you. It's going to ignite you. A divine revelation that has never been before. So let's listen to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and let's listen to his words, and I pray to Allah that what you hear here will ignite you to see how you're able to quicken your spirit through God in the person of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Okay, we start. I'm in closing of the gap, so I'm on page 317. If you have a closing of the gap, closing the gap. See, when you talk about a man, we're closing a gap on a man. That mean that what that means is, if there's a gap between the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and the people, then that means that we're going in that direction, striving to close that gap. And the more that we close that gap, that means that we are striving to get an understanding into becoming one with God. Because the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, he's reached that already. He's reached where we're literally looking at a man who's aligned, who has become God. Where God is functioning, every thought, everything that he does is done by the will of God. I hope that makes sense. But let's get into what Jabril Muhammad was having an interview with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and let's see what the minister said. Okay. By the help of Allah, I had determined, this is Brother Jabril speaking. He said, by the help of Allah, I had determined that when I knew for sure that Minister Farrakhan was up for doing the interviews, that my first question to him would be intended to elicit his answer to speak on the purpose and value of excellent conversation, but that we must now quickly get into and get ourselves into as fast as possible. I knew that we also must quickly get into the habit of quality conversations. I want you to listen to what that says. Quality conversations. Of course, I did not know how my brother would answer questions intending to elicit responses from him that would serve this critical need of us who follow him and our people and other in general. But I said a short prayer and began on a day he wasn't feeling too bad. Listen, family, you've heard me say before that the only reality is God himself. So when I say that the only reality is God himself, that means that we're all gods from the Most High God. So if we are all gods from the Most High God, we're gods. But what distinguishes us and what makes us one supreme and one is lesser is the different levels of the intellect that we're operating from in our existence. Yes, we're gods. But what makes Allah is he's a human being. But what makes him separated from the rest of the population, the human family, is his knowledge, wisdom, and understanding is not only supreme, but he's able to he's mastered the laws of the universe, of what the originator brought into the universe. So what I'm saying is, if Elijah Muhammad, the exalted Christ, and Master Father Muhammad, two human beings, are back in the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, then the way we have to understand who God, it's one God. There's only one God. There's only Allah. But when we come into unison, we all can become Allah. But amongst us is one who Allah chooses to ignite a higher degree of knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. And that one that amongst us is the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So in our midst, he's God in the person. This is why he says, have I ever committed sin? Yes, I'm not sinless. He said, but I'm good enough for you. So Allah has chosen that vessel, that man. I'm going to work through you to change the human race and to elevate them to become civilized. Other people around the world, they have to come through the words and wisdom of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Now, I know some of you may say, well, brother, that's your opinion because you in the nation. That don't have anything to do with it. It's the essence of intelligence that is coming through this human being. I'm saying the Minister Farrakhan, but the way that we don't worship him is we understand that the intelligence that's in him is coming through him. It's using the vessel in him to show that God is present. That's what we worship. We worship the intelligence. We see the essence of what's coming through the human being. That's what we worship. That is an alpha and an omega. That is infinite. That is Allah. Okay, so let's get into it. Brother Jabril Muhammad, this is the question that he asked the minister. He said, my question is 2 or 3 questions in one. How would you define the art of conversation? And then how will you define the best kind of conversation Muslims should be engaging in, especially in this critical hour as it gets darker? Now, brothers and sisters, we all know that we are in some dark times. We can all look in our life right now and see, man, you see something that you're not happy with in your own personal life. You can look in the mirror right now and say, I'm not happy with where my life is, or I can do better, or times are dark right now. We see that all over. We're in a recession. Hell, we're damn near about to go into depression. The pandemic then hit. A lot of things we get on social media and we fake it to escape the reality of what we're going through in our own real personal life. We don't need to escape that. This is why we need to have these deep dialogues and these conversations that we're having. So listen to the minister's words. He says, Allah gives to every creature the ability to communicate with its own, to be able to share with other members of its species what its aim is and what its desire is, and the fulfillment of that natural inclination of the species. This is why we're supposed to be dialoguing with one another. Because when we dialogue with one another, not just talking about the game last night, not talking about some TV show that we was looking at. Man, did you watch Power? Man, what you think gonna happen? This and that. Those are low conversations. Those are low vibrating dialogues. The highest dialogue is being able to talk about God and talk about the reality of God. Because when we talk about the reality of God, and it's shaking some things up inside of us that are pressed down, that needs to come up. And this is how we start to manifest ourselves as gods. As David said in Psalms, yea, are all gods of the Most High God. That's the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan's role amongst us, is to be able to reach down and pull the God up out of us. That's what Jesus did. Okay. It says the highest manifestation of communication is language. I'm going to say that again. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said the highest manifestation of communication is language that he gives to the human to express its desires, its concerns, its needs, its disappointments, its frustrations. But all of it is manifested through language. Brothers and sisters, we know what happened to us as a people, 400 plus years of slavery. But even before that, we're gods. We're gods. But a lot of us don't look beyond the slavery. We're not able to see that we were gods. So if we can't manifest that, and all we ever see is a devalued people, then we're going to be reflecting on the reality that's in front of us of being a devalued people. But if we can extend from the period of darkness and extend to a period of when we were in good place and positions, then we'll start reflecting and we'll start seeing ourselves as such. So this is what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is speaking about. So now that God has come through Master Father Muhammad and created a vehicle, he created a entity, and that vehicle is the Nation of Islam. Not to say that there is not other knowledges and truths that are out there that our people are feeding on. But when we talk about the highest manifestation of electricity, of truth, it is coming through the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. How do you know that to be true, Brother Winford? Well, the minister said that you can tell a master teacher by the wisdom of the student. You can tell a master teacher by the wisdom of the student. Not only a wisdom of the student, but you can also judge a person, the importance of a person, not by their friends, but by the importance of their enemies. When we look in the scriptures, who was Jesus' enemies? He had governments after him. When we look at the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, he has governments after him. That man has done no wrong. He's done no wrong. But those in high places who continue to spread the darkness, who spreaded the darkness, who we are saturated in that darkness, we are products of that darkness. God has sent his intelligence through a human being to break up that darkness. And that's why the minister said, darkness and light mixed together is the breaking of the dawn. Oh, that's beautiful. So when we talk about breaking of the dawn, we can look in our life and say, damn, I've been through some heavy times. We might be going through some heavy times right now. But yet and still, you're not giving up. You just have to rearrange and restructure our thoughts, our way of thinking. And what's the best way to do that is by feeding on the words and wisdom of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Now, some people say, but I'm not Muslim, bro. You don't have to be. You don't have to have that title. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Stop cheapening the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Stop cheapening yourself from being able to listen to words of wisdom, a high octane of electricity of wisdom that's going to literally change you into a new creature through your mind, through your thoughts. I'm telling you, man, I was studying this last night and I was like, I had a candle going. I had some tea going, and I was just listening to the Honorable, and I'm listening to his words, and I'm like, damn, boy, how did he come up with this stuff? Peace to my sister, Lady CC. I was like, how did he come up with this? But I could literally feel doing something better, man. Like, man, you know, like I'm a part of this. I'm attached to this. I'm a part of this. So he says the highest manifestation of communication is language that he gives to the human to express its desires, its concerns, its needs, its disappointments, its frustrations. All of us have come from broken homes. I don't care if your family was rich and you came into money. You're still coming from a broken family. No one man or woman can rise above the condition of his people. So you're still having things that are deep in us that has crippled us from being able to express ourselves through freedom, justice, and equality. We're not the best of ourselves. We're not the best version of ourselves. The art of communication is a lost art among human beings. I guess the Tower of Babel, if y'all read the scriptures, y'all have heard about the Tower of Babel, and the confusion of languages is demonstrative of the chastisement of God in disallowing human beings to be able to communicate at the highest level. See, a lot of things have happened. Slavery. We were stripped of our language. We were stripped of our tradition. We were stripped of our way of eating, our lifestyles. We were stripped away of our God, our way of worship. And all that means is we were stripped of these things, so we lost the knowledge of ourselves. So it took something higher that will have to come and bring us out of that condition. Something higher had to come because it took a hell of a lot to put us in that condition, to make us go to sleep, forget who we are, devalue ourselves, live in self-destruction, a dead people. described in the scriptures as the dead carcass. It talks about the eagles flying around in Genesis. Come on, y'all. It talks about the eagles flying around the dead carcass. What is the eagles? What is the symbolism of America? What's the symbol of America? It's an eagle. But it says the eagles were flying around the dead carcass. The dead carcass is symbolizing a people that are dead mentally, no knowledge of self, self-destruction, living in darkness. We have been in triple darkness for over 400 plus years. And even before the slavery, we were still in a level of darkness. Oh man, this is heavy. With us as a people that were taken from our original language and culture, we have developed skill in communicating through various means, sometimes other than language. But the highest form of communication is language that is used to communicate the wisdom of God. Peace to my brother Solution. Did you hear that? Did you hear what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said? So if he's a representation of Allah, and he's aligned his mind with the Christ, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, and Master Farid Muhammad, if his mind is aligned with their mind to become one mind, then if he says the highest form of communication is language that is used to communicate the wisdom of God, then that means that when the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan opens his mouth, or he give us books to read, or it's coming from him, he's never had to do a second take. When he was inspired and the divine revelation was coming through him, he never had to say, you know what, we're going to take that out. Dr. Ava Muhammad, may Allah be pleased with her, I remember her saying, I will be in the room with the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and he would tell me to write this down. She said, I will always have to have a pen and paper close to me, because at times he would get at certain intervals and certain periods, the divine revelation would inspire him to, it would come up. It would come up. And if you know anything about the Prophet Muhammad of 1400 years ago, may Allah be pleased, when he received revelation, it said that he used to receive revelation, and he used to, the inspiration would be so heavy, and the divine revelation would be pressed upon him when the Quran was coming through him. That's not a spooky thing. That's not a mystery. We just have to know how to accept it. We have to know how to understand it. So being inspired in the right condition, from a rightful position in your being, boy, that's divine revelation. That's God pressing among you, and the God is coming out of you to bring something to the human family. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad told me once, I want y'all to listen to this. This is going to blow your mind. This right here is going to blow your mind. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad told me once that it takes 500 seconds, 8 minutes and 20 seconds for the light traveling at 186,000 miles per second to travel from the sun to the earth. Did y'all hear what I said? The sun is 93 million miles away from the earth. This is high science. This is mathematics. Prophet Noble Jew Ali, beautiful brother. Marcus Garvey, beautiful brother. All of these, Clarence 13, and all of these brothers was beautiful brothers. Beautiful sisters that spoke for righteousness. They didn't come with the science and mathematics. We never knew this before Master Father Muhammad taught the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. So when we say that God is a man, the reality of God is a human being. And when other people say, that's your opinion, but y'all can't prove it. Yeah, we can. You just got to know how to recognize and listen to when you're hearing it. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad told me once that it takes 500 seconds. That's 8 minutes and 20 seconds for the light traveling at 186,000 miles per second to travel from the earth, from the sun to the earth. Think about this. We're 93 million miles away from the sun. If light travels at 186,000 miles per second, I want you to think about that real quick before I go on. Let's count. Let's just count to 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Do you know how fast light was moving in that 10 seconds that we just counted? Do you know how much distance light is 186,000 miles? That's a long way. 186,000 miles per second. If you was to get in between the pathway of that light, it would immediately disintegrate you. That light is so powerful because we know through science and mathematics, when light hits the earth, it strikes the earth to make it start rotating. How powerful is that? Just think, if you got in the path of that light, you would immediately disintegrate. Ain't no chopping your body in half and all that. Walaikum salam to my sister. I don't know how to pronounce that. La Jefla X. Peace, sister. Peace. So just think about that. 186,000 miles per second. If it touch you, you're going to disintegrate. So look at what Allah, we didn't know that before Master Father Muhammad came. We didn't know that before Master Father Muhammad came. We didn't know that light traveled at 186,000 miles per second. Einstein didn't know that before Master Father Muhammad did. The world didn't know that. Our ancestors were great, but they didn't know that. They didn't know that. They didn't have, they was in tune with certain things, but they didn't know down to the numbers. They had knowledge, but they didn't have the wisdom. They didn't have what Master Father Muhammad, what he came and said, it's 186,000 miles per second. That's how fast light travels. If we're 93 million miles away, now watch how Allah did this. Look at what Allah done to show that the human being is God. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad told me once that it takes 500 seconds, 8 minutes and 20 seconds for the light traveling at 186,000 miles per second to travel from the sun to the earth. Oh, listen to this part. Likewise, he said, it takes 500 seconds, 8 minutes, and 20 seconds for the blood to make a complete circulation between the heel and the brain and back. He said, when you go visit a person that is sick, if you put the right word in their ear within 8 minutes and 20 seconds, you will see a change in the spirit of such person. You can't tell me that's not science and mathematics. The highest manifestation and expression of reality is science and mathematics. You cannot get around that. Why do you think that the enemy separates science from religion? Because he don't want you to know and see the whole world, in particular, the black man and woman, we'll move ourselves away from science. We'll remove ourselves away from mathematics and say, oh no, that's science, that's math. God is real and God don't have to go by that. No, you're undeveloped. You just don't understand the language. The universal language is mathematics. Can't nobody dispute this. Nobody can dispute this from a scientific, mathematical perspective. So if we human beings, I want you to listen. If light is traveling at 186,000 miles per second and we're 93 million miles away from the sun, and once the light strikes the earth, it makes the earth rotate, then our blood that'll circulate inside of us is taking the exact same amount of time for blood to circulate from our brain back through our body to our heel. It takes exactly 500 seconds, 8 minutes and 20 seconds. Think about that, y'all. That is God showing a sign to say that. What did he say? He said, study my creation. He says, study my creation. That's right, God body. Supreme mathematics is the understanding of man's relationship with the universe. Why would Allah say in the Holy Quran, study my creation? So the supreme being, Allah, says the intelligence in the Quran says, study my creation. So if we are studying the creation properly, then that means that God is saying, don't you see all the signs that I put for you? For you. I made all of this for you to show you that you rule this. This is yours. You are the micro, but this is the macro, but you have the capability of ruling this. You can master this from your being. Man, listen, we haven't understood that deeply. We haven't understood that to its full capacity. We have not. We have not. But can we be on track? Can we get on point to align ourselves, close the gap of who God has fully taken over in our midst? That's heavy. That's really, really heavy. So if I'm going back to what the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad told the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, brother, take the moon off. Take the moon off because you have no equals. So am I confident to say that there is no other human being on the earth that is equivalent to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan? Yes, I can. Yes, I can. Does that mean it's not other powerful influencers, righteous people on the earth? No, it does not. But just think about this. God has chosen us to be his people. When Allah says that I've chosen you to be my people, that doesn't mean that we become arrogant. It doesn't mean that we look down on everybody else and say, hey, look, we the chosen people of God, because we in bad shape. We're in a bad condition. But God took nothing, and he's going to make something out of nothing. The whole world rejects the black man and woman in America. We're not even considered citizens. But God said, I'm going to take the same nothingness that was last and make it first. And what? Bring it to the top. The cream rises to the top. So we are a representation of a chosen people by God as cream. All of the destruction, all of the madness. Look at what he said. We're communicating at the highest manifestation. We're learning from the minister to communicate from a high manifestation to correct desires, to correct concerns, to correct disappointments, frustrations. We need a knowledge. We need an intelligence to correct the frustration, the letdowns, the shortcomings. How do we do it? Listen to what the minister said. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad told me once that it takes 500 seconds, 8 minutes and 20 seconds for the light traveling at 186,000 miles per second to travel from the sun to the earth. Likewise, he said it takes 500 seconds, 8 minutes and 20 seconds for the blood to make a complete circulation between the heel and the brain and back. He said, when you go visit a person that is sick, if you put the right word in their ear within 8 minutes and 20 seconds, you will see a change in the spirit of such person. What that told me was that the level of energy, light, spiritual power that is contained in right words communicated from the right motivation energizes the brain of the recipient of such word. That energy is delivered to every part of the body, thereby increasing the energy level of that person. As I looked at what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was saying to me, I recognized that there were levels of conversation that carried varying degrees of electrical energy. Brothers and sisters, this is why it's important that we find ourselves being in the right company, being in the right atmosphere. Because listen to what the minister, we're going deep, man. We're going deep. Listen to what he says. It gets more juicy, man. This is juicy. This is juicy right here. This is divine revelation. This is stuff that we never knew. We didn't know this. He said, as I looked at what the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was saying to me, I recognized that there were levels of conversation that carried varying degrees of electrical energy. He said, the lowest, I want you to hear me. He said, the lowest form of conversation, which takes away from the energy of the human being and causes that person's shoulders to droop, their face to drop, their countenance to change, the body to react is, he said, the body to react is conversation that is negative, dealing with slander, backbiting, gossip. This type of conversation, which is so disruptive to unity, to brotherhood, to sisterhood, to social relationships that reflect the highest quality of civilization. That's a mouthful, man. That's a lecture. That's a whole lecture and demonstration by itself. I'm going to read it again so we can have an understanding. Because how many times do we find ourselves in low conversations? I'll be the first to raise my hand. Sometimes we could be conversating about nothing, not getting any excitement. We want to hear somebody else talking about somebody else. That's how black people are. And white people play on that intelligence. White people play on the ignorance and the condition that we're in. They create these reality shows. You can't get on the show if you're not going to be fighting. We need you to fight. But what do? They put all these beautiful black women on TV, pulling out each other's hair. I'm going to sleep with your man. I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And they always showing a black woman angry at a black man. They always they make these movies of a black man cheating on a black woman. She burn his car, blow his car. Always painting an image that we can connect to, creating an environment that we can attach ourselves to that manifests nothing but self-destruction. Do you understand that? This is done scientifically. It's a skill. This is why the most honorable Elijah Muhammad told the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, brother, you're not ready to deal with Satan. Let me deal with him. It's levels to understanding skill sets in operating the function of the reality of cause and effect, which is the reality of God and Satan himself. All praise is due to Allah. This is heavy. The lowest form of conversation, which takes away from the energy of the human being and causes that person's shoulders to droop, their face to drop, their countenance to change, the body to react, is conversation that is negative, dealing with slander, backbiting, gossip. This type of conversation, which is so disruptive to unity, to brotherhood, sisterhood, to social relationships that reflect the highest quality of civilization. So what we're doing when negative thoughts come up, try your best to toss them, man. Try your best to get rid of them. But in the process of getting rid of them, we have to fulfill the spaces. I'm reading from Closing the Gap. We have never heard dialogues and conversations like this. Allah says in the Quran that the slanderer, the defamer, the gossiper, he likens that kind of person to the worst and most hateful of all his creatures. So when we talk about people, when we backbite, we run over to this person, and then expect to have favor with God, we're not going to get favor. God does not like that. So when we find ourselves doing that, we have to be conscious and we have to stop ourselves and train ourselves not to do that. Somebody bring you something bad about a person, stop, man. No, look, stop. I'm not finna entertain that, man. I'm not finna entertain. I don't want to be in the middle of that. Won't you call that person and tell them, man? And I know sometimes it can be hard to address certain situations, but if you can't address them, just wait on time. Wait on the time for Allah to shape you, to prepare you to address what needs to be addressed. It's better that way. Allah says in the Quran that the slanderer, the defamer, the gossiper, he likens that kind of person to the worst and most hateful of all creatures, which is the swine, the khanzir. In Arabic, it's called the khanzir, the swine, the pig. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said khanzir means I see it foul and very foul. The Quran says, I will brand him, the human being, on his snout. You see how the Quran describes that with the pig, a swine, the snout, which say that this type of person is like the pig, groveling in filth, looking for dirt to spread about another human being. I see it foul and very foul. We got family members that love to spread evil, wicked things about you. Family, blood, don't want to see you be successful. See you starting to get yourself together. See that God has put you on another path. Here they come. I remember when they used to do this. And now they're waiting for everybody's reaction. Then somebody questioned, oh man, we heard you used to do this. We heard this. We heard that. Back in the day, you did this. Back in the day, you did that. But the person who put it out, you don't get no favor with God. Oh, you ain't getting no favor with God. This is what this is saying. This is what this is talking about. When you do that, you have put yourself in a situation to where you like a pig groveling in filth, looking for dirt to spread on other human beings. You can best believe that God is not going to bless you. That's why we have to be God conscious. Because any one of us, that can happen to. A devil is a wicked person. So that means that we all have the potentials to be devil. We can go to sleep God body, God fearing, wake up certain thoughts, waking up a devil. That's why the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said, the real battle is the battle in the mind, in self. That's what creates your heaven and hell. That's a good one. Sister Manning, that's a good one. When people do that, I tell them Allah dropped the charges. That's a good one. I'm going to have to steal that one. I'm going to have to steal that one, sister. That's a good one right there. I'm going to have to get that. I'm going to have to borrow that. Praise be to Allah. Oh, yeah, Allah dropped the charges on that already. You trying to bring me up on the RICO. You trying to hit me with the RICO. Allah say, I dropped them charges. Come on. Come on. When you communicate with this foul discourse, it can never lead to the type of activity that a higher level of discourse will bring about. All of this, what I'm reading you, this is the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. This is the God that's present. God is using him, the highest form of intelligence, coming through a human being. I need you to understand that. When you communicate with this foul discourse, it can never lead to the type of activity that a higher level of discourse would bring about. So, slander, gossip, defamation, secret counsels, that engage in this foul, despicable means of communication leads to a person falling down mentally, spiritually, and humanely to the act of the lowest level of human behavior. Oh, let me put this up here just in case somebody might say, let me send my man something for being up this morning, giving this good word. Let me go and put this in the chat real quick so we'll know. Let me go ahead and pin that bad boy. Yeah, because we lit this morning. Oh man, we lit this morning. We lit this morning. We lit this morning. All praise is due to Allah. We lit this morning. I'm not trying to get you to point fingers at nobody. More than anything, I'm trying to get us to understand ourselves. I'm trying to help us stay in the favor of God or close the gap or get closer to the God. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is showing us how to get there. He's showing us what to stay away from, what to recognize in ourselves. This is why we do this. When you communicate with this foul discourse, it can never lead to the type of activity that a higher level of discourse will bring about. So slander, gossip, defamation, secret counsels that engage in this foul, despicable means of communication leads to a person falling down mentally, spiritually, and humanely to them and act on the lowest level, of human behavior. When Almighty God Allah reveals a word, or what is called divine revelation, that unearths secrets of himself and his creation, that man and that the wisest of men had not discovered up until that time. No matter how high the wise have gone with their wisdom and their ability to communicate their wisdom, when God so chooses to raise an individual and give that individual divine revelation, that is akin to putting the highest wattage of electricity in the head of that human being. Oh, that's heavy. That's heavy. That is heavy. The human being that comes at the end of the world does not only have a high wattage, but he is compared to the light of the sun, which carries light, life, energy, and warmth to all of creation. Therefore, no creature can live without the energy of the sun. This is the significance of the Son of Man. Ever since I've been in the studies, coming from a federal penitentiary, being on the path, studying the knowledge of God, coming from the study guide number 19. Listen to me, family. I've always read, and when I seen the Son of Man, by me being a 5%er, understanding when I came into the nation of Islam, when I seen the Son of Man, S-O-N, I was able to make it interchangeable. The Son of Man is a representation of a light. So I always said the Son of Man was S-U-N. So you hear a lot of cats on the East Coast from New York say, yo, son. Hey, yo, what up, son? Yo, son, what's good, son? You know where that comes from? That derives from the supreme wisdom. On the East Coast, what up, son? That came from Master Father Muhammad. Because Clarence 13X, learned from the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. He learned from Master Farrakhan Muhammad. He learned from the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. Clarence 13X. Supreme Allah. So when we say, yo, son, we're not saying, most people think that it comes from S-O-N. Hey, yo, son, what's good, son? No. That came from our intelligent knowledge from being able to recognize the black man as God and being a light. So it's, yo, son, what up, son? It's S-U-N. Because when I look at you as a son, you shine like the sun. Even in our conditions. Walaikum salam, Brother Joshua. Thank you for joining on YouTube. So even when we talks about the Son of Man coming from the east and a Son of Man rising from the west, that means that the Son of Man that was coming from the east taught another man. And when he duplicated himself from coming from the east and the sun was rising in the west, we know that the sun that's out in orbit in space, it's not off course. As Allah put that sun on course, it's been doing what it's supposed to do. So when it says that the sun will rise from the west, it's not talking about the sun that's in space. But the sun in space is a representation. Nothing can live without light. Oh, come on. The sunlight, I don't care whatever is in darkness in the world. If it was not for the sun hitting the earth to make it spin, life could not be. So the Son of Man that is in the scriptures, S-O-N, coming from the east. It said a light, a great lightning coming from the east. And then you get to the west, everything on a westerly course was considered dead. But a sun has risen from the west. That's talking about a human being. S-O-N, because it's a son that came from a man, a human being. But even in the S-O-N, it is still S-U-N, because what's coming through his vessel, what is coming through his mouth, what the intelligence that is coming through him that he learned from another man, Allah, came in the person of Master Farrakhan Muhammad and taught the most honorable Elijah Muhammad day and night for 3 years and 4 months to be exact. This is how he became S-U-N. Because he was able to get the light from Master Farrakhan Muhammad. Master Farrakhan Muhammad duplicated himself. He turned himself into the most honorable Elijah Muhammad with the wisdom that he gave him. We've never heard this. We've never heard this before. This is heavy. The human being that comes at the end of the world does not only have a high wattage, but he is compared to the light of the sun, which carries light, life, energy, and warmth to all of creation. Therefore, no creature can live without the energy of the sun. Nothing of life will survive without such energy. This one that comes at the end of the world that says he is the light of the world, his brain is filled with the highest form of energy. Then transmission of that light to those who walk in darkness or to those who function on a low level has the power to raise their level of conversation, their level of thought, and their level of activity. Family, did y'all just hear that? Did you understand that? It says one came. This one that comes at the end of the world says he is the light of the world. His brain is filled with the highest form of energy. Master Father Muhammad was that light that came. The most honorable Elijah Muhammad recognized who he was and said, I know who you are. And Master Father Muhammad said, yes, but who else knows? Right then, the chemistry, the relationship, the matrimony was love. Look at how the most honorable Elijah Muhammad answered that. Look at what he told him. He was able to recognize him. I know who you are. You're the one that the scriptures talk about would come. Master Father Muhammad said, yes, but who else knows? Who else knows that besides you? Everybody else had an opportunity to figure it out. Everybody else had their time to say the same exact thing that the most honorable Elijah Muhammad said. No different. You had an opportunity to say it. You didn't recognize him. The most honorable Elijah, and at that time, that's what made the most honorable Elijah Muhammad the right vessel, because he recognized. That's what made him the chosen vessel. He recognized who he was. You see? Do you see the universal, mathematical, spiritual connection between the human being and its intelligence? Once he figured out and was able to recognize who Master Father Muhammad was, how can you recognize God unless the God in you is activated, it's awakened? So he was able to recognize from a dead level. He was able to recognize from a dead level. It's the same, my sister Sadia says, so that's with us too that join. All praises be to Allah. We were able to recognize the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. That's heavy. And we all recognize them at different times in different conditions and situations and circumstances in our life. Everybody ain't getting chose to talk like this. Everybody ain't getting chose to recognize this. To a lot of people, we're weird. To a lot of people, we seem weird to a lot of people. Oh, that's them people that's in the nation. That's them people, they weird. What does the Holy Quran say? It said that they laugh. But look at what Allah has for the believer. It says the disbeliever, they laugh. But Allah said, yeah, but the believer is laughing too. The believer is laughing too. While you laugh at us, we're laughing at you. So don't think that you got the up because you see brothers in bow ties and suits passing out papers when it's 100 degrees outside. Don't think that because you riding by smoking your weed at the light and you laughing, man, them niggas hot. Man, I know I got this AC on. You laughing. But we laughing too. Because we understand That when God chastises us and we fall, or we get in a condition of where that's a mercy. I'm going to say that. That's a mercy. When the believer is going through darkness, that's a mercy from God. Because the Holy Quran says, the believer suffers and the disbeliever suffers. Look at the Quran. Look at what Allah says in his Quran. The believer suffers, the disbeliever suffers. But the difference is, you got me backing you. You got me that's backing you. That's beautiful. See, when you can struggle in darkness as a believer, you may be in darkness, but you still have light. But when you're a disbeliever in darkness, you don't have no light. There is nowhere to go. You can't, there's no sight at all. But when you are in darkness as a believer, the mercy of Allah is the light in the darkness. I bear witness to that in my own life. I bear witness. I bear witness. And I'm sure you can bear witness. All praise is due to Allah. Listen, I'm gonna take about another 15, 20 minutes, and then I'm gonna end it because it's too long. We're gonna have to do a part two. We're gonna have to do a part two. Give me 15 minutes. I got my timer right here. Give me 15, give me about 20 minutes. 20 more minutes. All of this is coming from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. I just want you to know how real it is. I want you to know how blessed we are to be chosen, to be weird, as the world says. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan says, when such a person is communicating to somebody that is dead, then the person who's considered dead is functioning on the lowest level of human behavior and human conversation or communication. We've all been there. I function on low levels. I've communicated on lower levels. They have not received that which would raise them in thought and in action from where they are. When a man like that appears, a messenger of God, the Messiah, then to feed on his word that comes directly from God is to feed our brain the best food, the highest form of food. There it goes again. When a man like that appears, talking about a messenger of God, the Messiah, when you feed on his word, that is coming directly from God. So if the Messiah is getting the word directly from God, he's being inspired. He's the lead wire that God is inspiring the divine wisdom to come through this vehicle. Then if it's aligned, he has no control. God has fully taken over him. So in the midst, he becomes God. Boy, that's heavy. He becomes God. Does that make sense? Does that make sense, family? Now listen to the example that he gave. Now, when we go out to purchase an automobile that is a high performance automobile, It is counterproductive to put a cheap source of energy in a high performance engine. The human brain is a exceedingly high creation that functions best when it is fed from the highest energy source. Man's connection to God is life itself, and disconnect from the source of the highest energy is death. You're not going to get no Bentley, no Benz, or no Beamer. You're not going to get these types of things and put unleaded in there. 87. You're not going to put no 87 or no 89 plus in no Benz or no Beamer or no Range Rover or no Aston Martin, or you're not going to put that cheap gas in your vehicle, because what they're going to tell you, when you purchase a nice vehicle, they're going to tell you only Supreme can go in here, only 93, only Premium. You can't put cheap stuff inside of this vehicle. It's going to break down. It is the same with us as human beings. That's why the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said we should be found conversing in high conversations. So when we're talking about nothing, it cheapens our trains of thought. When we want to talk about the reality of God, when we want to talk about correcting ourselves, how can you self-improve without speaking about God? How can you, when the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan came with self-improvement, there was nothing higher than that. That's right. New wine in old wineskin. It has to be made new. That's a good one, Sister Deep Waters. That's a great example. That's what that means. You can't pour new wine in old wineskins. It's going to burst. In order to become a new man or new woman, we first must have a new mind. This is the process. We have to start engaging in high dialogues, high conversation, and that comes from studying. That comes from digging deep. That comes from analyzing our conditions as a people. What are the solutions to mass incarceration? This is what I'm going to talk about. Me and my brother Shinobi Muhammad out of Mosque 48. This is what we're talking about on our new podcast. If you have not subscribed to our new channel at Meet the FOI podcast, let me put this in the chat so you can have it. That is the subscribe to the YouTube. Our first initial episode will be launching January the 14th, inshallah. God's willing. The first episode, January the 14th. We're bringing the dialogues as an FOI, coming from the things that God has allowed us to come through, showing the importance of the life-giving teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, guided and taught by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. How I became an author, how we're able to travel and do security and do these things, how we're able to come into situations through certain thinking, how we're able to reach back and feed off the example of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan and be that little Farrakhan around my way to pull brothers and sisters, from my own personal experience doing 15 years in a federal penitentiary. The teachings are real. There is no higher level of conversing, dialoguing than the reality of God. When we are blessed with a man who has received divine revelation, and we breathe in or inhale such wisdom, the brain cells begin to operate at their highest level of efficiency. And even though toxins, this is the part that I need everybody to see. This is the part that I need everybody to hear. This refers to all of us. I need you to pay attention, family. And we're going to close after this. We're going to close after this because I want to respect your time. I'm already an hour and 35 minutes in. I want to respect your time. When we are blessed with a man who has received divine revelation and we breathe in or inhale such wisdom, the brain cells begin to operate at their highest level of efficiency. And even though toxins may be there, even though poisons may be there, even though dull thought may be there, once there is a connection to that highest form of energy that is contained in divine revelation, the brain begins to oscillate, vibrate, function at its best level. The more it feeds from the source, the stronger the brain becomes. The greater its sight, the greater its hearing, the greater its ability to think and plan and bring into existence what it plans. We have a lot of believers. We have a lot of believers. And that's beautiful. That's beautiful. But there is a difference. And I learned this just by observing our young brother, Brother Ben X. I'm sure we all know Brother Ben X. All praise is due to Allah. The brother is doing a magnificent, amazing job with representing the teachings. In that sense, getting to our people from a teaching perspective. Not only having knowledge of it, but he's showing the understanding. And that's where we have to get. That is the ultimate goal. Not only to have the knowledge of what we have, but being able to cross the threshold of having knowledge of it to applying it to where it becomes an understanding because it's manifested in our life. It's so much. You heard what the minister just said? So look, don't be discouraged, brothers and sisters. Don't be discouraged because even though you have toxins, we all have toxins. We went through 400 plus years of slavery. There's no way we're not going to have toxins. We was hit with the Willie Lynch syndrome. There is no way we're not going to be shaped in iniquity. Even though we have poison, we turn on family members. A lot of Cain and Abel's running around in our own communities, in our own families. Your worst opposition sometimes is your family, people that you grew up in the same household with. Do you hear me? When God chooses you, he don't choose everybody. He don't choose everybody. even though we may be dull in thought. Sometimes we really literally don't know our next move. I don't know what to do. I literally don't know what my next move is. Who've been there before? I've been there. So much coming at you so fast, you just say, I don't know the next move. I don't know what to do. But Allah, God says, I have a way out. I have a way out. Allah is telling us, I have a way out. Isn't it ironic that self-improvement was an inspiration that came through the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan? How could that be? Who gave him this inspiration? Dr. Ava Muhammad said all this was done in one take. If you don't know what I'm saying about one take, I'm referring to the way it was coming as he was teaching it. He didn't have to go back it was one take all the way through. It wasn't okay, let's go back to this, let's change this, and then we'll do it this way. No, he was guided all the way through. One take. Self-improvement. The basis for community development. So let's look at the title. Self-improvement, the basis for community development. We can't get to the community until we self-improve, because that's the basis, that's the foundation of cleaning up the community. So in the word self-improvement, no backbiting, no slander, no poison, no toxins. In self-improvement, that's the process to get rid of all the toxins. It's not going to happen in 1 or 2 days, not even 1 or 2 years. Our blood, our DNA is steeped into the Willie Lynch syndrome. That's why the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said, as I close, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan says, you have to be careful being in certain environments. He said, because no matter what good is in you as a human being, that environment can trump the goodness that's in you, and the environment of influence is so strong, shaped in iniquity. No matter what's good in you, you're going to eventually become a part of that environment. You're going to become that. And it produces heredity. It produces heredity, meaning that it's then literally got into the DNA. DNA has thought. It's thought in your bloodstream. The Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad said he's Yaqub in reverse. So what does that mean? We are reversing the process. We're cleansing out the shaping of iniquity. Brothers and sisters, if there is anything that I've said that has rubbed anyone the wrong way, that is not my true intention at all. But if there is something that I've said of benefit, understand that it comes directly from Allah through me. I'm a student of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and I'm striving to elevate myself, self-improve myself, so I am worthy enough to assist our master teacher, to assist our spiritual father, and to bringing about a new person in myself and a new person in our family and our brothers and sisters, the human family. May Allah continue to bless every last one of you. I just thank Allah for allowing me to come on, man, allowing me to just express myself without being afraid. I don't do this for entertainment. I do it for inspiration. I do it because Allah has set me on a path. I don't do everything right. It's a lot of days where I'm low. But it's other days where I'm riding high. It's other days where Allah's saying, no, you got it. You got it. Get it out. And these was one of those days. So may Allah continue to bless every last one of you again. Before I close out, me and Brother Shinobi Muhammad, this is my brother, beautiful brother out of Miles 48. We have a podcast that we're doing together. I am his co-host. This brother has done all the heavy lifting. He's put a podcast together that he had a vision of, and it's called Meet the FOI Podcast. I'm his co-host, and we're going to be discussing in the near future mass incarceration, public school to prison pipelines. We're going to be talking about the Black woman, the importance of the Black woman, the respecting of the Black woman. Where there ain't no decent women, ain't no decent men. We're going to be talking about, as an FOI, what does that mean? What's the significance? What's the importance of an FOI? Becoming a real man. It's a lot of things that we do as men that we think is right because of an emotional perspective or a point of view, but we're all the way wrong. We're trying to become civilized. So it's not no big I's and little U's. We're concerned with our communities, with our brothers and sisters. We're hurting. We're struggling. And we want to be able to bring awareness of Meet the FOI Podcast. What is our mission? Our mission is to bring self-improvement and accountability to organizations and gangs. Stop the black on black violence. Stop the killing. Stop our children having babies, 12 and 13 years old, pregnant because the parents are not in attendance, not surveillancing, not understanding, not speaking to your child, not sitting down, having real live dialogues with your child, spending time showing them that they have value. Some of us have been affected with that ourselves, and we see it in our children. We see where we went wrong. See, when we can see where we went wrong in our children, then that means that we can't continue to blame it on mom and daddy where they went wrong. Because at some point in time, they was undeveloped. They had parents too. That's why I'm always talking about the reality of cause and effect. We can't never start at the effect. You get so many people saying, oh, I'm tired of talking about this. Why we just can't start right now? We can't start right now without understanding the cause of it. You have to get to the root. This is not a branch knowledge. This is a root knowledge that we have to tackle. And what better way to do it than with the life-giving teachings of the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, guided and taught by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So with that being said, we're coming with the podcast, Meet the FOI Podcast. If you want to subscribe to the podcast, it is at Meet the FOI Podcast. At Meet the FOI Podcast. Yes. We will be discussing some heavy topics that we need to hear. This is not to be laughing. We've been through so much. We've been raped and molested and all kind of things have happened to us. This is not a time to be making fun of nobody. Y'all see what's going on right now, and I'm going to close after this. Y'all see what's going on right now with our rapper, Young Thug, the Rico. He's going to trial. He's fighting for his life. They don't care nothing about you telling on this person and this and that. See, it's all the way cool to rap in songs, all snitch this and snitches get stitches and oh, woo, 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 and we taking it to trial and woo, woo, this and that. All of that sound good with a beat behind it. But when you actually fighting for your life, these people trying to give you 30, 40 years, and you got to talk to your baby mama or your wife and your children on the phone. Now you got to make a decision. It's either your life or your family lose out. I'm not condoning anybody to snitch. Don't get it misconstrued. But that's the effect of us destructing on one another. Oh, that nigga snitched, man. I ain't messing with him no more. I ain't doing this, I ain't doing that. White people eating it up. They create platforms. Vlad TV create platforms. Put a microphone right in your face. Put a camera in your face. What they gonna do? Oh, them niggas snitch, man. Yeah, but let's talk about the root. The white man and his wicked mindset. The unseen hand. Oh, we're going to get into it. We're going to get into it, family. We're going to get into it. So I have a YouTube page. If you want to subscribe to my YouTube page is Winford X. Go to Winford X on YouTube and it'll pull up. You can hit the subscribe button. You know, I'm live right now on YouTube and I'm live on Instagram right now. So again, this is what I like to do, man. I like to ignite our brothers and sisters to thinking. You know, we talk about so many different topics, but you can best believe the topics that we talk about and the things that we talk about is nothing to play with. This is real life, real human being life that we're trying to elevate and we're trying to correct to get down the right path. So with that being said, may Allah continue to bless you and your families. I greet you in the greeting words of peace, which we say in the Arabic language. Assalamu alaikum.